Welcome, Esther. Welcome, Eugene. Welcome, Bridget. Welcome, Joanna. Welcome, Nadine, Anna, Julia, Shamsa. We're really, really excited to have all of you here with us. Okay, so we can go ahead and begin. Hello and welcome again. A big thanks to all of you for joining us for this Women in Logistics live webinar. We are really, really excited to have all of you following along with us. My name is Victoria, and I work with Doctors Without Borders, or MSF in short. For those that might not be too familiar with Doctors Without Borders, we are an international medical humanitarian organization, and we do provide medical assistance to people affected by epidemics, conflicts, natural or man-made disasters. And we do this in over 70 countries globally. Specifically, I work with the recruitment team in Eastern Africa, and I am in charge of recruiting logisticians to work in our projects within the region, but also beyond. So we are really, really excited to have all of you here, which brings us to why we have this session, the live webinar. We are going to be joined by three wonderful, amazing, and inspiring women in logistics. They are going to share with us their experiences working with MSF, their career journeys, and just give us some tips and hacks on how they are breaking barriers while building their careers. So look forward to that. And we do hope that you are going to engage with us throughout this session. Please feel free to drop all your comments and questions in the chat, and we will be able to assist you as we move on. But before we introduce these lovely, amazing ladies, I am here with my co-moderator, Masha. Masha, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's such a joy to be here today with all of you. Thanks a lot for registering, being interested, and then showing up today. I'm Masha from the recruitment team here in Amsterdam, one of the offices of Doctors Without Borders. I've been a part of the team for around 3 years. Similar to Vicky, I'm also recruiting for logisticians, and these days, especially so for women logisticians, which we are very eager to have a better gender balance in our teams. And this is what this session is also all about, to share a bit of the experience of existing team members and shed a light on how it can be. Thanks a lot for joining, and enjoy the session.
Thanks, Masha. So over to you, ladies. We can start with Patricia. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your role in MSF.
Hi, I'm Patricia. I'm currently, it's a weird name for the ones that are not familiar with MSF, is the International Logistic Coordinator. You may know that we have many officers, and some of them are operational officers, and in each of them we have logistic team, and to try to have some coherency around them and to work together. So my position try to have all these people talking to each other and do the best. So that is what I'm currently doing. I'm in MSF since almost 14 years, so times fly. And voila, over to you, Vicky.
Thanks, Patricia. 40 years is very amazing, commendable. Yeah. So Clotilde, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you, Victoria. My name is Clotilde Songo. I'm a water and sanitation engineer, also WASH project manager. I'm currently Watson manager in Magaria, Niger, with MSF OCG. It's my first mission with MSF.
Wonderful, great. Thank you also.
Thank you.
For also sharing your experience after our first
Yeah.
mission. Thank you. I also see Sharifa, you have joined. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Sorry about that. I'm having a few technical issues on my end with the internet. But just briefly, I'm Sharifa. I'm a logistics manager from Uganda. I joined MSF in 2020, and I've been internationally mobile staff for the last 5 years. And my position is as a logistics manager, and I've worked in several different missions, both Anglophone and Francophone. And I've really enjoyed my time with MSF, and I hope, like Patricia, I can continue and be able to say one day that I've also worked for 15 years.
Yes, great. Thanks, Sharifa. And we can already see we have diversity in terms of lived experiences. We have people that have been with MSF for so long, people just from their first mission, which is really, really great. It means differences in lived experiences and also roles in MSF. Next, we would like to ask all of you to engage in this question, not just the panelists. So please feel free to respond even in the chat. And the question is, if logistics were a superpower, what would yours be and why? If logistics was or were a superpower, what would yours be and why? Please feel free to be creative and engage with us in the chat.
I would say sorry, Vicky, to interrupt, maybe for participants that are not our panelists, it's easier if you write it in chat. Otherwise, it might be a bit too too messy. But if you can write it in chat, we would love to hear what your superpower is.
Definitely, yes. Thanks, Marsha. Maybe for the panelists, you can already share. We can start with Clotilde.
Great. If logistics were a superpower, I would say it would be the anticipation. I think that because it's essential for the success of operation. MSF logisticians ensure that medical teams have everything they need to treat patients, whether in emergency situation or as part of regular program. And personally, I feel like a superwoman because I save lives by bringing water and contributing to the well-being of vulnerable people in difficulty.
Wonderful. That's really, really brilliant, Clotilde. Thank you for that. Sharifa, please share with us what your superpower would be.
Hi, so Victoria, I've thought a lot about this, honestly. No, not really. But I would want the superpowers of Spider Girl. She's otherwise known as Akamakana, and she's basically a young Hawaiian mutant character in the Marvel comic books. And her superpower is that she has ability to copy the abilities and knowledge of the people around her. So as a logistics manager, I have to manage a lot of different technical families, and they're really interesting, but I can't be an expert in every single one. So for me, that would be a really good power to have, because I would be able to absorb the abilities and learn the skill sets of the people around me and the people that I work with.
It's very, very creative. I would want to be her too. It sounds very wonderful. So thanks for sharing that. Thank you. Patricia, over to you.
Hi, I love both Clotilde and Sharifa. I will say also for me, it will be to be able to this teletransport thing, so you can move things from one corner to another, because that is one of the nightmares of logistics, to be able to have what you need where you need it without needing to wait days or weeks or months. So I think this one will be the one I will pick. But of course, I will copy the one of Clotilde and Sharifa. And just to say that Clotilde is already doing that. Bringing water where there is no water is a superpower most needed.
Yeah. Wow, brilliant, brilliant answers. I can see in chat some engagement, and I think you are all superheroes. I can read one. Logistics would have the superpower as Flash, a superhero to deliver goods in a super fast way, seeing the big picture, remaining calm, engaging team members to identify and address the projects, teleportation, we've seen that too, orchestrator, seamless synchronization, and many, many, many more. Brilliant, brilliant ideas, everyone. Thanks so much for engaging with us for that question. You are all superheroes. Patricia, back to you. You have all this experience with MSF, 40 years of experience in MSF, quite a lot. So could you please paint a picture of how critical logistics is in our operations?
Well, I will say one of the things that we already hearing what the superpowers is already connecting what are the challenges. So probably that already start to give a sense of all the things that you need to do in logistics. So if it's okay, Vicky, I wanted to first say, what is logistic in MSF? Because many people that may not be familiar, when you are not part of MSF or even in the humanitarian world, you think logistic, you think maybe warehousing, maybe trucks, maybe transport. But as Sharifa was mentioning, it's much, much more. So first of all, I would say you need to have two sides. One side is all that is supply chain. So this thing about buying goods, transport goods, forecast what you need, no? This vision that someone was saying to forecast the future, no? That's one part, this supply related. And then we have another part that is all these families that Sharifa, you were mentioning, and Clotilde is managing one of them. That is what we call technical families in MSF, and is related with water and sanitation, very, very important, but also of energy, fleet management. We have fleets of cars, but not only that we need to manage. We have construction. Many times we need to build our own warehouses, our own hospital. Sometimes we need to rehabilitate. We have IT, more and more, all this digital infrastructure that you need to build and maintain. What I'm missing, biomedical equipment. We are lucky that we are more and more technology supporting our doctors and nurses, but that needs maintenance and to put that on track. So let me think. I think more or less I have said all that. That is the families that we call. So you need to be able to do that. And why is critical? Because you need all that to enable operations. You cannot do medical operation if you don't have all this infrastructure ongoing. But I will say that in logistics, we do also this one more step, that we are partners, we are co-designing operations. So when you need to do, for example, a distribution, when you have a displaced population, you need to sit with the doctors, you need to sit with other people in the team and say, how are we going to manage this thing? What is the best way? To which location we need to do, in which way? So you design those operations together to take everything that is needed in account. I will leave it here, Vicky, if it's okay, but we can still complement during the conversation.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's very comprehensive, and it shows how critical it is anywhere, not just in MSF, but anywhere. So thank you so much, Patricia. Masha, I hand it over to you.
Thanks a lot. My questions now are gonna go into a bit of the career progression and how it started and how it's going in a way. And the next one is again for Patricia, if you don't mind, sharing with us how it started. When did you realize that you want to be a logistician within the humanitarian world? Was there a light bulb moment? Was it a stream of events that led to this? How did it all start?
Well, you think I was explaining what logistic is. I didn't have a clue when I started in MSF. So my background is supply chain, and I was very young, because imagine 40 years, so I was a kid. No, but now seriously. So I was thinking, you have these moments in your life that you are working and you think, I want to contribute more. And for me, MSF was always this kind of the place I would like to collaborate. So I had a first approach when I was very young, thinking that the only way to contribute to MSF was being a doctor. And then I had the chance to cross someone, and she was explaining to me what MSF was doing. And then I realized that it was not only about doctors. Doctors alone cannot do so much. They can do a lot, but they cannot do it alone. So I had a moment of crisis. I was working in a place and I really have a very bad day. And I said, I'm leaving, I'm quitting. So, and it's a little bit dramatic, but it was summer in Barcelona is where I'm located. It was heavy, heavy rain. And I had this box with, your few things, and I was leaving. And I had a colleague that said, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I will work for MSF. So that was my moment, is what I want. So I started to figure out what were the different professions there, what were, when I can match. And I realized that supply chain was one of the pieces that is needed, and I was able to contribute there. So that was my moment of starting in MSF. And then everything just went in different ways, as always.
Exactly. The wheel starts turning. Great. Thanks for sharing that. I think in my experience, at least in recruitment, it tends to go that way, that people get really, really tired of the commercial world at a certain point, and there is a switch, and a career switch follows that. Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that. Clotilde, we'll move on to you if that works, to tell me about your experience in your first country program, in your first project, and how was it different, or how was it in line with your expectations of working with MSF?
Before joining the field, I was an apprehensive. I have many questions, the difference when I joined, but I found that I have more chance, and is beyond my exception in terms of team life, always a good atmosphere. It was very pleasant, and I had a really hierarchical and functional supervisor who were available and willing and ready to support me. So I had two logistics team leader in 6 months, and with them the collaboration was good, of course not perfect, but without major problem. And they constantly provided guidance so that I could success in my department with my teams and even for professional career. It's so different for the old organization when I work.
Nice. That's great to hear, and nice that you keep it real. I mean, the relationship was nice. Sometimes with bumpy, parts in it, because the work is very stressful and intense. But still, everyone tries to keep a friendly and pleasant environment. Great to hear. Maybe you can continue and help me with the next one, from that perspective, how it started, and then how it went from there on. We are aware that, there's a lot of gender stereotypes that we need to battle with in different contexts. Depending on the context, they can be more complicated or less, but they are almost everywhere, very present. How do you navigate this? How did this affect you? How do you go about it? Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Negative it to share firstly to share the bedroom with the men's or the toilets with the men's, the real context. But another things, but I really try to adapt, so I don't have more problem in field. No.
Can I ask you maybe more specifically, did you have any troubles being a female manager, being a woman manager, and people
Yes.
not maybe wanting to follow your lead? How do you manage that then?
Yes, but I cannot eat, but I manage a team of men, some of a certain age, some of whom might be my father, and some with a lot experience in the field. At first, I heard this little girl say, what is she doing here? Then send her as a woman. She's probably the girlfriend of one of the boss. We don't think she's capable of the job. Does she even know the field? The field is not for women. And there was this comparison with my predecessor, who was a man. He did it like that. With him, we worked like that. It was frustrating, really frustrating. But afterward,
Nani anasema? Hello?
hello. Okay,
No, please continue. We'll need to
okay.
mute that participant.
Okay.
And how did you find that? I'm very curious.
Yes. But afterward, I know how to adapt, learn from them and with them, and above all, accept
If you want to change,
myself.
you go. Me, I'm in a meeting. Unataka kwenda kuchange?
Can we ask Linda Arnold to mute her microphone, please?
Mshuke tu hiyo ndio tushabae.
I don't know if we can do it from our side.
Yeah,
Not sure.
yeah, no, should be good.
Yeah, exactly. Clotilde, go on, please.
Okay. I said, but afterward, I know how to adapt, learn from them and with them, and above all, accept myself. By setting guidelines that had to be followed and staying focused on the objective. Gradually, I was accepted by them through my work, my dynamism, and my skills. And today, I'm also finished with my missions, but they are the same people who want me to extend it. So I'm glad to to continue then.
That's a beautiful success story, really. And yeah, something that we need to account for and endure as women that maybe men don't need to grapple with. So thanks a lot. It is a part of our work and something that we need to think about from the very first moment of joining and being recruited. Thanks. Last one from my side for now is for Sharifa, and it's about a myth or myths that you want to debunk about women in logistics. What would that be? What are the common beliefs, but you don't agree with those?
So I think just picking back off of what Clotilde said, some of the myths that I would like to debunk about women on logistics are three myths in particular. So the first, basically the idea that women who work in logistics or who lead a group of men in logistics teams, that they need to be polite, they need to be protected. And when I talk about polite, it's the expectation that as a woman, when you're communicating with men, you need to communicate in a manner that's more gentle, that you have to be overtly respectful to them. And for me, that is generally a myth. And it's a myth because I don't believe that you have to soften your edges for people who can't handle them. And then the second thing I would like to point out is about protection. And this is, when I talk about this, I'm talking about the overt belief of women's physical limitations when they work in strenuous environments like logistics. So we are inherently seen as fragile or less, weaker. And so we're unable or shouldn't do tasks that have been traditionally designated for men. And so it's hearing things like, oh, you can't lift that cargo and put it in a truck. You can't pick up a hammer and, nail into a wall, or you can't drive a manual Land Cruiser and even get into the back of one without, being helped up by a man. And I think, on the face of it, these behaviors and attitudes, they might seem like they're helpful, but for me, in reality, what it is generally it's chauvinism that's being masked as chivalry. So I think those are the two myths that I would like to debunk.
What an answer. Amazing. Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you said. Yes, so we should not mix little acts of kindness and patronizing. So yeah, thanks. Great. I think again something to think about from the beginning, and being ready for these things, and having an opinion and attitude how to sort of react in these situations, and a stance to hold. Great, thanks very much. Very insightful for me as well. On to you, Victoria.
Thanks, Masha. Indeed, very, very interesting insights there. And just a reminder for those that have joined a bit late, feel free to drop all your comments and questions in chat, and we will be able to answer them as we move. Now, Clotilde, back to you.
Yes.
Please walk us through your most inspiring experience in logistics and a proud accomplishment as a woman in logistics that actually keeps you motivated to keep on going, regardless of all these things that you've mentioned you're going through, even as a woman. What keeps you going?
Okay. I arrived on the project. There was a project to build a pediatric hospital in progress. In a short time, it was necessary to make wash facilities available. In a 1 month and a half, we were able to carry out and equip a borewell by adding a treatment system, build latrine, shower, and washing area with a wash zone for the management of medical waste. It was very challenging, too much pressure to follow all the site, especially for the beginning of a mission, but I achieved this objective, and I was very proud of myself, and I felt useful.
Yeah. I think that's already very, very inspiring, challenging, but you went above it. So already very impressive. Thanks for sharing that with us, Clotilde.
Thank you.
And Sharifa, as you know, in the nature of our work, we provide medical assistance to people who need it, and in contexts that sometimes can be quite challenging. So what are some of the self-care tips that you use for yourself to have this balance, to ensure you're still okay, to keep going, to keep moving on? And for this question, please, those following us, you can also write down some tips and hacks that you do use for self-care too.
So I think everybody does different things. And for me, some of the things I do are really basic, at the end of the day, I like to go into my room, I close my door, I put on some music, and I dance just to dance everything out. Sometimes I also like to just sit with myself and just to clear my mind, to pause, and to allow myself to think clearly, because especially when you're working in an emergency, it's a little bit different when everything seems like it's go, 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 go. And sometimes you're up 24 hours dealing with different types of issues, especially with logistics. And so that's really important. I think I've also been lucky that in every single mission that I've been in, I've been able to find at least one person who I can speak to honestly and vent to, whether it's about work or it's about my personal life. So to be able also to talk to somebody while I'm on the project, just to release again some of that stress. And the other thing that I really like to do is, because sometimes you do have a lot of downtime and there's not much to do as well. And so I'm a true crime addict, so I really love to listen to true crime podcasts, watch documentaries, and then I read articles online. And, often when I finish doing that, I call my sister and we discuss new theories and discoveries, And so I think one of the other things that's important when you're on a mission is also to keep in touch with your people, like your family and your friends when you can, just to have a little bit of escapism as well by, getting yourself a little bit out of work. And also when you're on a project and you have the opportunity with the team life, then also join in some of the activities. You often find that in projects, you will have movie nights, you will have birthday parties, you'll have pizza nights. And so that's also a really nice way to just bond with the teams and the people that you work with, but also just to get rid of the day and not have to constantly be thinking about work and some of the suffering that you witness.
Yeah. Thanks, Sharifa. It also really shows the importance of mental health. You really need to also take time to speak. If you need to speak to someone, talk to your family, do all these team building activities. So thanks for sharing that. Nothing in the comments. I guess over to you, Masha.
Thanks. I'm sort of continuing down the line of being a woman in logistics field and how that can differ from what people are used to in the male-dominated field, I would say. And Sharif, I would like to hear from you if you've so far seen progress for women in logistics within the organization from when you started, and if yes, where and how you look at that, and if not, or you still think there's definitely still space for positive change, where would that change be most needed, would you say?
So yes, I definitely say since joining MSF, I've definitely seen some progress. So some of the ways that I've seen progress is that I've seen more discourse around dismantling all forms of discrimination or prejudice and bias at MSF, discussions like this that we're having. I've seen more and more women in the field not willing to put up with the status quo. And I've also seen, when I'm in the communities I am in the field, I see a lot of women come up to me and they ask me about my job, what I do. And it's really nice when you have other women appreciating the fact that they see a woman in a leadership role in a male-dominated industry. That really makes my day, because representation is important. So I think when you see people and other women doing the job, you think to yourself, it's possible. I can do that job too, because maybe it didn't occur to you before, or maybe you think the barriers are too high, and they are. But seeing somebody else is a little bit of also in encouragement in that way. I think when we're talking about things that I think need to radically change for women in logistics, I think there are two things that I'd like to point out, and I think they are radical. And I think the first thing is, for women like us who are working in logistics right now, unfortunately, I think that we have to be, or acknowledge and be willing to stand up and keep fighting, and maybe take the hit for women that are going to come after us. And the reason I say this is because it's important for us to speak up and to be loud about it, even though sometimes there is the risk of having adverse consequences. But there's no civil rights movement, there's no liberation movement, there's no rebellion that has ever gone without its casualties. It's unfortunate, it's unfair, but I think it's something that we have to radically embrace. And then the second thing I would like to mention is that I think we need to radically police the language that men use against women in logistics. And when I talk about this, is just to give a few examples. It's when women are assertive, especially women of color, we're called aggressive. When women voice their concerns or outrage or discontent, then they're called emotional. But time and time again, I see a lot of men have tantrums, literal outbursts. You know, they raise their voices, but somehow this language that is used against women does not apply, you know, to men in logistics. So I think we need to radically question the use of this kind of language, to police it, and to hold men accountable for it. Because what this language does and what it's designed to do essentially is to undermine a woman's leadership and her ability to assert herself. It's done to dismiss and also to disqualify a woman's ability to reason, to make logical arguments and decisions, and also to voice her opinion. And the consequence of that is a lot of the times that women who are in leadership roles get called difficult to work with or uncooperative, when in fact what it is a woman refusing to be silenced or refusing to be walked all over by men. So I think that is something that definitely needs to radically change.
Absolutely. I would love to think that this fight with that brings casualties that you're talking about doesn't need to do that anymore. And especially yeah, taking that as a note, of course, to all of us within the system to actually create an environment and a system that supports women, that they don't need to be the casualties of these of speaking up and acting upon you know, situations that made them uncomfortable. I do think that we talk about it more. I do think that there's a lot of action around it as well, but there can always be more, and women should go into their projects knowing that there's a system backing them up if there is anything that they need help with. So yeah, hopefully no casualties there, but the fight is there to be fought for sure still, and especially what you mentioned about the language and not sort of closing your eyes and ears in front of it if you do feel, you know, uneasy about it. Amazing. I feel very confident with women, having women in the team like you, because we're fighting the fight for the future ones as well. Great. Thanks a lot for that and for that insight again. The next one is about allyship in yeah, this well, maybe I should not use so much the battles and the fights and that kind of words, but in essence, yeah, the reality of being a woman in logistics. But there's definitely plenty of our male colleagues that are that understand the struggles, understand the issues that can arise, and are very well there to support. Patricia, if I can pick your brains about this one, when you reflect on your experience and journey within the organization, do you remember an example of where a real allyship was displayed? And maybe along with that, what do you think and what would you wish our colleagues, our men colleagues, would do more of to support women in logistics?
Thank you. First of all, Sharifa, I completely hear you. I've been called emotional all my life until the moment I saw that was my strength, to be emotional and care about things. No? So, but it took me a while and I still cry a lot. So it's a long way. But regarding the allies, Masha, first of all, to say that we are a lot of people in MSF. So I think we also need to sometimes remember the good stories and not only the bad. So you will have bads because we are part of the societies, not only in logistics, so around. But there are good people. I have got a lot of allies, also a lot of women. So to be fair also with them, I will mention men's because that's a question, but I had a lot of women supporting me. But I will mention a few men's, like these small stories. No, I had once, my position before the one I'm holding now, I was the director of logistics for OCBA. OCBA is one of the operational centers called Operational Center Barcelona. Some of them call it Operational Center Spain. to make it easy. But when I was going to apply, I was just a recent mother of a 6 months baby. So imagine, it was not in my mind to apply to a director. And it was a few months telling me, why are you not applying? You are one of the manager of the team. So you had this moment that you just empower yourself and say, I'm going to do that. So I went to see the director of logistics, that was a man. And I told him, I'm applying to this position. And he was like, you are what? And his face was really completely out of his scope, no? And he really caught by surprise. And then 24 hours later, he called me to the office and told me, I'm very sorry, because yesterday my reaction was like surprise, because you were really not on my radar. And I'm sorry for that, because you are a very, very good candidate. And in fact, what I'm telling you, that it's not that you are a very good candidate. I think you are the candidate. But if you go for that, go for it to have it. And it was this moment when he was like, supporting from there, acknowledging that he was not thinking about me, and then offering if you want to have a conversation and all that. So that gave me the strength, no? So that was very nice. And also that happens sometimes, that people don't see you as a woman. Is why we need women in leadership, because it's easier than another woman see you. Not because men are bad, because we all see things different ways. Another one that was very supportive, I think is very anecdotic, but about or bias. No, I was in a mission in Syria, and I was there for a while, and a new field coordinator arrived, a man, an Italian guy, super nice. But we went together to see an area that I knew, but he didn't. And when we were going out of the car, he was like, you stay in the car. I think it's better. It's only men's that I'm going there. And I was like, what? And what Sharifa is saying, you are in this moment that you don't know if speak out. It's not the moment to make us something. 2 minutes later, he came back and say, this man, this kind of local leadership is telling me, why have you left this woman in the car? Tell her to join us to have a tea. And it was this man that I didn't knew. He felt so bad about having a woman alone in a car. And I joined the group, all men's, all local leaders, to have a chat. And I was really welcome in a way like, no, and now I want to hear her voice. So he was, this man doesn't know me, from another culture, with this bias that he may be a culture that will reject women. That was really make me feel part of the team. And if I may, I will share a last one, and it's about maternity, because it's one of those things that also sometimes is seen that the woman thing. But normally you also need a man for being a mother, not always, but many of the times. So normally it's a matter of two. When I joined the management team as a director, we were 4 directors with small babies, 3 women and 1 man. And the man, the director of finance, was very vocal about that. Like, I cannot go to that meeting because I need to pick up my kid. He was connecting to Teams meetings sometimes with the baby. And one day I asked, and he was like, no, I want to show the people that I'm also doing things for my kids. And he didn't need to do that, but it was then not only the women's using the excuse or the reason of the babies to go out of the job or whatever. So I think it was powerful to have a man showing the example that also men are involved. And it's not only when you hire a woman that she will have a charge in the family, but also men. So I think those 3 were 3 moments that I remember with this. They didn't need to do that, and they did it. And I felt very, very accompanied and very, like really allies. Thank you.
Beautiful examples. I will just refer you to the second part of the question, and that is what you would like to see more from them. What expectations are they maybe not fulfilling at the moment? I mean, it's a big generalization.
Yes, it's a generalization, but I will pick on one thing that Sharifa was saying, and it's the paternalistic, this part about trying to rescue us. We don't need to be rescued. We need to be heard. So I understand that sometimes the nuance can be difficult, but we really need to be empowered. We don't need someone to help or speak our voice. We need people that are there and support when we are raising a voice. But maybe this helping manner it comes from a nice place, but it's a little bit too paternalistic. And when you are paternalistic, you're putting us down again. Hearing the women around the table, I think we are all strong women. We can make our voice loud. And that is where we need people that are at our side, but we don't need up and just take in our hand. We are not little babies. And this nuance, and to hear what the women are doing, and maybe asking questions. go, if there are men listening, go to your female colleagues and ask them what they are going through, because sometimes I have the feeling, and that again is a generalization, that some of the men don't know that it's hard and that you are going through hardships. They don't know because they haven't got the experience themselves. So ask to your female colleague, what is difficult? Have you gone through hard stories? And listen to those stories, but without judgment and helping, just hear to them and then understand better. I think that will help a lot.
Exactly. No, thank you. Thank you. I think it's spot on. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's really not the ignorance. Sometimes it's just that it didn't even occur to people that that this could be a thing, that women could be going through some things that yeah, to the other gender, it doesn't really even cross their mind. So yeah, we should also give them that benefit of the doubt and take them along in the journey, but it goes both ways with the questions on the other side as well. Thanks for that. And maybe
Masha?
sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to piggyback off something
Please,
Patricia said,
go
and
ahead.
I think one of the things that I would like more men to do, because like she said, there are men who are allies who see the things that happen and they do speak out and they do ask questions. But I also, when I have conversations with a lot of men, they tend to, because they see the things that are happening and they see how difficult it is, sometimes they always say to me, oh, but I would never want my wife or my sister or my daughter to work in logistics because of the things I see you experience. And for me, I don't agree with that. I think what men who are allies actually should be doing is challenging the men and the behaviors and the attitudes when they see them happen, and they should be part of creating a safe and equitable space for women, because essentially what they want is to create a space for where a working environment where their wives, daughters, sisters can operate and coexist peacefully in those environments. So essentially, they need to also be part of the change that they want to see for women.
Absolutely. And it goes both ways. It cannot go, yeah, one without the other. I mean, we are together, we work together in the country programs, we live together. If there's no support from everyone involved in the team, it's just not going to be complete. It's not going to work, and women will still not feel like they belong. So a very important thing to keep in mind. And as I said, take them along in the journey that is going on. Hopefully progressing in the right direction with its ebbs and lows, but still hoping that it does change over time. In line with that, very, very close to that, I would like to ask, maybe Clotilde, you can start, but maybe we can hear from all of you about what you notice MSF, the organization, has done to help this change, to help women in logistics in this change, policies, safeguarding actions and frameworks, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion trainings, teams that work on that. Have you benefited from that? How do you see that?
Okay, thanks, Masha. Personally, I have benefited from training to be effective in the field in terms of team management and internal procedure. I participate to the Watson technical training at the beginning of my mission, and for my long-term career plan, I benefit from support to achieve my goals as a woman in this field. The DEI policy greatly encourages personal development of gender, and it's also a great opportunity to progression for me and for us. So,
Patricia and Sharifa, would you like to add anything? Is there anything that comes to mind that happened and that is a positive shift in the last years?
Well, I will say as Clotilde, no, I had the chance to attend different trainings. That is always helping, no. But then in a more personal way, I was mentioning I'm a mother of one, and I applied to this position of director with a baby. I mean, in I don't know in your home countries, but in Spain, in many places, even if it's not legal, they will have discard me as an option because I was just a mother of a 6 months baby, and I never had the feeling that that was a problem. On the contrary, no, there was this willingness of that will not affect on your job. It can even help. And what do you need? At that point, we were in a different office. There was not a place where you can breastfeed, and they will help me to be able to maintain my breastfeeding. You know, there was this kind of listening and not putting a blocker. So for me, that was a moment of acknowledging that it was different, that where I have friends working in other sector, what being a mother was delayed or even not done because they were fearing that that will be a problem in their careers. And it was not my experience. It's true that it will depend a little bit in where are you located, because there are some legal things in different countries, but I think it's an organization that really, really wants to encourage women to be able to have a career and be a mother. No, that is not something that you need to decide one or another. So that was also a moment, that was a change in my life.
Great, beautiful. I hope that doesn't stand only for the office work, but also for the country program work. It's a different way of living, but still, it should be somehow possible for both. Thanks for that, Sharifa, with the final words on this one.
I think like Clotilde, I would say that while I did come into MSF with some technical training in logistics, when you get into the field, you maybe haven't practiced everything that you learned in theory. And so it's being given, I've had good like mentorship sometimes with logistics team leaders who've been able to allow me to develop more of the skill set in the areas that I want to grow and develop in. It's also being able to contact technical reference when you have a problem and you don't really know how to solve it. So not just sitting on a computer and spending all day trying to research it, that you have a resource that you can check in with. And yeah, and also I think it's sometimes one of the best things I had was being able to work also with other women. When I was in Lebanon, I was in a team of a logistics department where I was the logistics manager, the energy manager was a woman, the Watson manager was a woman. And so also learning from other women in their various roles and jobs that they're doing was also interesting, because I was able to also develop that information where maybe I may not have been always as comfortable to go to, you know, a male counterpart and ask something sometimes. That was early on in my career. But yeah, it's being able to have that mentorship as well. If you're coming in as a new log manager and having an LTL who can support you, or somebody who can mentor you if you need it, and also the technical trainings.
What a beautiful story of representation in Lebanon. I hope that happens more and more often.
Asha, can I
go.
just comment one thing on Sharifa? Because I had this story, Sharifa, I think is very important also, not this having these women on leadership. And I had once I was in the emergency unit, and I was hiring a young woman, locally hired, and she came to me because the stock manager, a man, was refusing to work with a young woman. Like, how will this woman be my boss? And he literally told me that when I was going to talk with him, like, my boss cannot be a young woman. I was like, yeah, but you have a problem, because the boss of this woman is myself. I'm a woman. And my boss, the logistic coordinator, is a woman. And in fact, the emergency response unit responsible is a woman. And the director of operation at that point was a woman. But you're lucky, because the next one in the line at that time was a man. So you can go straight to the general director if you want. That is the next man you have in the line. And the man was like, well, I think it will be okay, you know? But it was this example, Sharif, and when you say, okay, if you have a problem with women and leadership, you have a big problem, because we have many there. So it was not only logistic, it was more general, but also logistics. So it resonates a lot what you just said.
Amazing, amazing story. Yeah, hopefully, in the ideal world, this conversation doesn't happen. But when it does, and it's this anecdotal, yeah, you have to enjoy it. Yeah, I hear a lot of similarities with OCA's current leadership, which is great. Also, operations director and a lot of women in positions of director positions and high up in hierarchy. I think what we found out, Vicky, if you don't mind, I'll just shortly share a couple of things that we are doing at the moment, so that we end a bit on the note of, well, not end, we will go into a Q&A part, but it sounds a little bit grim. I'm catching myself thinking that it is sometimes a struggle. But there's a lot that has been done and that we are doing at the moment to advance this. And when I say this, I mean representation, because I think every topic that we touch upon when it comes to the problems of being in a male-dominated field is in essence solved with having more women and having this representation. How we recruit has changed a lot in the recent years. How we attract candidates, where we sort of look for them in a way, or where we try to access in a way labor markets and where women are has changed tremendously. How we recruit in terms of having diversity in the panels, people who are making decisions, not only being male in this case. How we from there on, from the recruitment perspective, prepare women for what's awaiting them in the country programs and what they need to think about in terms of gender, with much more sort of information and empowerment in that sense. The avenues that are available to women, if anything should happen in the country programs that makes them uneasy, are more and more prominent. Do a much, I would say, a much more proactive work and job in protecting women if that is necessary. Trainings and prioritizing women for trainings and education within the organization is also a big focus across all operational centers. So that awareness that sometimes, the best candidate for a training seems to quite often be a man, and what we can do about it systematically is something that is progressing quite quickly. So it's not just the discourse, luckily, while there's a lot of that as well, and changing the narrative and raising of voices, but also tangible actions that we are taking to work on representation. So I'm hoping that in a couple of years' time from now, the situation will be even more different. And while it already is in comparison to sometimes before, we see a lot more women in international mobile staff teams, and I think that trend is, I'm sure it's going to only follow. So thanks a lot for all your answers. I pass it on to Vicky to maybe say a couple of words, and then we turn to questions. No?
Yeah, thanks, Marsha. And I don't know about you, but I have goosebumps. All the responses we're getting are brilliant. The stories we're hearing are powerful, trailblazing responses. I think we're doing amazing work here. So thank you so much for sharing, ladies. And we have quite some questions. We are just going to move on to the Q&A session. So if you have any question, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will be able to assist you. But for the first one, I think over to you, Patricia. I would like you to take this up. How does MSF balance speed and compliance when delivering emergency medical supplies in fast changing humanitarian contexts?
Oh, that's a very good question. I will try to answer the best way I can. I always said that there's one part that is not a mystery, because we do not have those superpowers that we were talking before. So there are two options. So one option is we already are present in a place where we have an emergency. So one of the things, and again, is one of those roles that logistics have a very important role, is what we call emergency preparedness. And one of the part of the preparedness is having a stock in the country where we operate. And this stock is protected for future scenarios or possible scenarios of emergency. That will help us to have a first response while ordering goods internationally. What I'm saying ordering internationally, that's not for all the contexts, but many contexts we don't buy locally, and that is for the quality assurance. So as our operational medical operation, for those that know the sector, we need to buy other things, but mainly drugs, medicines, and those ones are very, very strict in terms of compliance. It's not only about the product, but it's also about all the supply chain. So those things are not so fast and easy to ensure. So what we do is we have some supply centers, so a place where they buy centrally and then you order there to ensure the quality, but that takes some time. So one of the mysteries is to have local stocks. The others is to have stocks in those centrals. So the moment that you order, at least they are almost ready already very, very fast. One of the constraints, I will say, more and more is the importation and constraints. And again, that will be one of the things that the logistic teams or the supply teams, depends on who you are working to, it will be separated, will deal with to make sure that those goods are able to enter the faster, the better into the countries. Because it's not only about having the goods and transport by air, but also to have all the paperwork, that's the boring part, and having them inside the country. But that will be a little bit the landscape of emergency. Goods that are already there, goods that are standby in one of those centrals, and in both cases it will be the supply teams ensuring that these things are happening. But preparedness, knowing what can happen and making this kind of forecasting is critical, and that are done with the medical teams. Of course, it's not the logistic just inventing what will be there, but managing then the orders and all that probably will be with the logistic team or the supply team. I hope that answers.
I'm sure it does. Thank you so much. It was very, very comprehensive. So thanks for that response. And
Maybe,
yes, please, Sharifa.
maybe if I could also add on to what Patricia said, from a logistics standpoint as well, in terms of maintaining compliance, MSF does have logistic standards for every technical family. So as much as we can, and when we work in logistics, most of the logisticians and national teams, locally hired teams, and internationally mobile staff are trained on the MSF standards. And so there are documents that are available. They're not only just to ensure compliance, but also to help you understand what should be done and to keep the environment safe and also efficient as well. So it's also a guide for you. You have some guides that help you ensure the standards in logistics as well.
Thanks, Sharifa. Very, very clear, very comprehensive. Thank you for sharing that. And now I think anyone can pick this up. Are there any structured career development training opportunities for logisticians within MSF? Some experiences you've had?
I don't know, Masha, maybe this one is something that you can answer better, but I'm sure that the others we can complement.
I mean, yes, there is sort of a natural progression, I would say, within the domain, within the field, and ways to get there. It's not the same for everyone. It's not always linear. It depends on many things and your starting point. So the experience that you come with when you join the organization and the level that you're at. The starting position as an international mobile staff is normally what we call the logistician or Watson manager or a logistics manager. So pretty much from the start of entering the organization, you are in charge of a team and you will be managing a team. So that experience and that kind of skill set from before is something that we really value. We rarely recruit people who have just started in their career. I must say that. We normally say in our vacancies around 2 years of experience is a minimum, and then managerial experience is a really big asset. But how to progress from there is somewhat different depending on the area of logistics. If you talk about the WATSANS, the water and sanitation, it's normally a water and sanitation manager, water and sanitation team lead, water and sanitation deputy coordinator, and then the water and sanitation coordinator. This is kind of really in short and simplified the career progression that you can expect. So from working on the ground in the project teams, hands-on and yeah, managing the team, to then ending up in the coordinating office in the capitals of the countries where we work in, and coordinating a couple of projects, making sure that everything works in that domain. So quite a serious responsibility, obviously, but yeah, quite serious positions from the very start, from the entry point. So yeah, that's a little bit how it can go.
Masha, if I may say, I was a few months ago in one chat also around logistic and women and all that, and someone was saying that women are applying less to training. So that's one of the things I will say. Don't wait until someone approach you offering trainings. Ask for that. There's a lot of opportunities. You will need to fight for that, but as everything in life. So it's not that just it will come from the sky and ask you for that, but ask for it. And even if there is a no, just keep asking, because again, we are a lot of people in MSF. Sometimes it's not the right moment. Doesn't mean you are not the right person. Sometimes the no is because it's not the moment, or someone else was there. But keep asking, because again, there's a lot of opportunities. And Masha was mentioning this kind of progression. No, you are a Watson and you do the Watson thing. I was a supplier and I doing the logistic, because I was asking for things. I was there in the moment. So there are opportunities. Logistic is super vast as an area. If you are, some people were writing in the chat, if engineers are welcome, super welcome, because it's very, very polyvalent people. Normally you are training so many things that is easier for you to learn a new domain. As Sharifa was mentioned, we have a lot of guidelines, but we also have specific trainings on domains. So ask for that. And I know that women, sometimes we shy away and we are there in our corner and we don't ask. Ask for that. And if you don't know about energy, ask for training on energy and you will know. And in the worst case, now you can fix the energy in your house. So, I mean, there's things there around, and I think there are many, many opportunities, and not so many women applying to those logistic trainings. So I think we need to push for that a little bit.
No, absolutely. I mean, women not applying is a trend overall, also for vacancies and jobs, because yeah, it might not be a 100% fit, which we all kind of strive for, and then men apply even if they don't really fit the role in even 50% of the criteria. I'm not sure what the research was, but there's a lot of research around that as well. So yes, absolutely, grab your chances, and as I said, with nowadays this deliberate opening up for, opportunities for women, I think hopefully access will be much higher than it used to be. Thanks for that.
If I could also add, which is something Patricia and both Masha have talked about. Yes, there are trainings. Yes, there's a natural career projection, but not everything is also depends on your interest and where you want to go in your career. So we do have career managers and people who you can speak to about potentially what you want to do and where you want to grow. And the other thing is, which is a really good resource that MSF offers, is online training with Tembo. So if you're not able to access, the face-to-face trainings, there are free trainings online. If you want to learn about a technical family that you don't know so well, you can go online and teach yourself after work or during your holidays and whatnot. So that's also a really good resource for learning. And the other thing I would say, like Patricia said, if you are interested in something and you want to understand it a little bit more, when you're in the field, if you see somebody who has a job but you don't know that much about, I might not know that much about, energy or installing a generator, whatnot. I will go and watch as they install a generator. I mean, I have to have a basic knowledge of certain things, but like if there's something I really want to learn and I know we're going to be installing in a generator, like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to see, I'm going to make the time to also, learn. It's speaking to the mechanics on the projects. If I don't understand something, you also sometimes have to create opportunities for yourself, because it's not often that people are just going to hand them to you.
Thanks, Sharifa, Masha, Patricia. Very, very interesting. And Masha, just to build on what you were saying, indeed, sometimes as women, we tend to undersell ourselves, even when applying for jobs. we see we don't meet 100%, we don't apply. But please apply, apply, apply. We encourage you to really apply, even if you don't meet all the necessary qualifications and skills. Okay, so a lot of questions still coming in. What qualities or skills make someone successful in logistics at MSF? Sharifa, you want to continue, or Clotilde?
I will say two things. I think Clotilde mentioned this when she started talking about her first experience. The first thing is adaptability. It's super important to be adaptable when you work with MSF. You're going to work in different types of contexts, with different types of communities, with different types of language barriers. And so it's super important to be adaptable. And you're also going to encounter a lot of different kinds of problems in logistics. You assume that once you've dealt with a problem and you go to your next mission, you know how to figure it out and it's not going to happen again, but then it happens, but in a different kind of way. So it's always about being adaptable. You also have to, I think it's important to be flexible, whether that's flexible in your views, flexible in how you manage your team, flexible in also where you're willing to go and the types of places you're willing to work in, because it's also a great opportunity to see and experience different and new cultures, and also to understand a little bit what's going on around the world and being part of maybe solving some of the issues. And I would say that the third thing I would add about it is be prepared to learn on the job. A lot of working with MSF is learning on the job. You get into the field and that's where the real learning happens and the real growth happens. So I would say you need to be adaptable, flexible, and just willing to get stuck in when you're in the field. Yeah.
Thanks, Sharifa. Anyone else want to add on? I think we're good. Okay. And we have an interesting one here. Clotilde, you wanted to mention something?
Maybe
Or
Clotilde.
Patricia?
No, I think Clotilde.
Okay.
Yes, just I mentioned it at the beginning, at the anticipation. Anticipation, organization, management is very important in the logistics.
Thanks, Clotilde.
I will add only one that, and again, I know that is making that general, but I think is resilience. And I think it's one of the things that we are very good at. I don't say men's are not, but I think it's one of the things that women's are very good at. So when you say why women's, because this resilience, all the things that Clotilde and Sharifa was mentioning, you need that, to be flexible, to adapt, to learn, to after something that was a failure, to be able to wake up again. So that will be one of the things that I also will add for logistic.
For sure, for sure.
And one quick addition, and I think that stands. Now we are very generic because we're not talking about a particular job. If we're talking really technical skills, we would then need to really look at the vacancy and the job and all of that. But overall, all of this that you mentioned, absolutely, and then this curiosity, I have the feeling is the word that I want to use, and cultural awareness, understanding that you will meet people from everywhere in the world that have very different lives and very different views and stances on a lot of things, and being open to that rather than judging it in any way or being sort of coming from a point of knowing better or your own stances being the right ones. I think this is really vital because living and working with the same people can be really intense, creates a very strong bond within the teams, but can be intense. And so being open and understanding and curious about others is really key.
Yeah. All those are great competencies that you can already start to think about if you're planning to apply to work with MSF as a woman in logistics. And we have another interesting question here. Are there specific contexts where having women in logistics teams made a critical difference? I throw it out to you ladies. Clotilde, would you like to take it up? I see you're unmuted.
No.
Okay, no worries.
But I would say Clotilde probably had examples, because I think in many it's very important to have women. Again, not because women are better or worse, because that gives probably a vision that is different from some male colleagues. But in water and sanitation, Clotilde was mentioning that at the very, very, very beginning, no? When you're talking about the approach for water and sanitation, many times we are not considering specificities that women may need in terms of security and water and sanitation needs. But that maybe, Clotilde, you can, if you want to, but I think it's very interesting example of the, and is a context that is almost in our operation, the water and sanitation needs. Sorry, I just throw it to you like that.
When I arrived, I was the one most woman with four men in the same room. Well, same room, but the bedroom closet. We used the same toilet for 5 persons. I am a woman, I have a specifics needed, and really it's not very, it was very easy for me. But with this time, I try to adapt, to accept, and to do with that.
And I think, Clotilde, in some of our context, what we do is then we realize, now I think it's all across the board, but it was not in the past, that you need different toilets for women and men, that you may think about when women are the main caretakers and staying, for example, with children at night, that you need a specific setup for them to overnight. So this kind of thinking, it's not that men cannot have it, and as Sharifa was saying, we have guidelines now, but sometimes it's easy that a woman see those needs of other women. So I think sometimes it's really, really very operational, but also access-wise, no? It depends on which community you need to talk. It will be easy for a woman to talk to this specific group of people. So, and again, diversity is always something that you will be benefit, no? The same that you need men for certain chats with certain people, you need women for certain chat to certain people, no? So I don't know if that answered the question of the person why women are need, but I think in all the context, not in some specific.
Okay.
In all the context, it will bring another vision and added value to have another voice.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Patricia, for that. And for this next question, very interesting again. What are the future goals for gender inclusion in logistics at MSF? Starting with this Women in Logistics live webinar we are having, but also we can build on that. What are some of the initiatives MSF is taking to encourage gender inclusion in logistics at MSF? Yeah.
Sorry, because I'm talking a lot, Masha, but I don't know, because
Go ahead, please.
this one
I'll just
I'm super
compliment you.
excited.
Yeah.
I was telling at the very, very beginning that one of my task or job is to try to have different people of the organization talking to each other. And one of these groups is the director of logistics. Today we have 6 directors of logistics. 5 are men and 1 is a woman. So as you see, we're still struggling for the diversity in some places, but still all of them have decided that one of the priorities is to increase the number of women of logistics. Doesn't mean that that group can move that alone, but so many initiatives are around the organization that this one. So one of the things is to have the top leadership of logistics engage with that, make sure that we connect those dots, no? That this webinar is very important. Can we replicate it in other places? Can we give voice to that webinar so other people can join? So it's quite new. So it's just a few months that they have this engagement. Doesn't mean that before there were nothing happening, but now it's more like an official commitment from the specific group in the organization, there is a willingness already for increasing women in general and more in logistic. But I think for me, when you have the backup of the leadership of that function is also important. That gives a very strong message, no? So yeah, just wanted to say that. But then there are specific things happening, like trainings and recruitment action and all that. But that you know better than me.
I can just give one of the examples. It's not only logistics specific. We meaning Operational Center Amsterdam. This is not to confuse everyone, but one of the sections of MSF, because there are many and the organization is very big. We have an ambitious goal of having 50% gender balance, so 50-50 across all international mobile staff teams until the end of next year. That sounds like an impossible plan, but and for some pools of and some jobs, it's more realistic than for others. But this is deliberately an ambitious goal that we have in front of us to direct us. Which for the recruitment teams mean a certain thing, certain hiring targets, and prioritizing women in certain cases, or accessing, as I mentioned before, accessing, where this female talent is and how we can engage with them more actively and in groups that are maybe marginalized, that we're not that we weren't accessing before. There's many efforts and many plans that are ongoing and will be in the future to advance this and to enable a representation, essentially.
Thanks, Marsha. Very interesting initiatives there. Ambitious, but we can do it. We can make it. Yeah. And another question that we have, I guess this one would also be for Patricia. What advice would you give to women who want to transition from operational roles to more strategic leadership positions? It's a great question.
That's a difficult one, because I think Sharifa was mentioning, that each part is a little bit unique. You may have something on paper. I will say this again, Sharif, I'm mentioning you because you said something that I like it a lot. This kind of learning mindset. I think people that are open to learn all the time have more opportunities, because first of all, you know more. Doesn't need to be very, very deep. You don't need to be the mechanic if you are not the mechanic. But if you understand, you will listen better to the question. When people come with complaints, you understand when those complaints come from, if they are legitimate or just a complaint. So you will be a better manager. So there are things that are more intangible, of course, training, but I think to have this learning mindset for me will be key. More strategic, talk with people. Try to be interested in something that is not only your thing, maybe not only logistic, but know more about finance. Fortunately or unfortunately, the moment that you have a team, you are managing a budget. So you need to know about that. And probably nobody have thought about teaching you that. As for that, because it will be a key thing. Managing people is not just to have people and give orders. It's not at all about that. So understand what it is about. And if you don't have a training, look at the others that are managing people. We were talking about allies and role ships. I had the chance to have incredible women in leadership, and I was learning a lot about them. So look at that. And then again, many times it's you that needs to step out of your comfort zone, applying to a position that you don't think is yours. But if you don't apply, it's impossible that you will have the role. So many times we are waiting for that opportunity, and it's just applying. And if you don't get the job, at least you know better what is missing, because that's also important, that someone will give you the feedback. Ask for feedback. Sometimes we go to an interview, people have so many things to do, they will just say, go and ask. And people just, normally they say yes, they give you 10 minutes of their life to tell you, you were a good candidate, but you are lacking this or that, or your answer were too weak or too vague, or if you were able to do this and that. So this career path, somehow you need to build it yourself. Don't expect a guide to give you all the answers. So I know that is very unspecific. My own story is super weird, because I was convinced I didn't want to grow hierarchically, and somehow I was like, I don't want to complain. I want to change things. What do I need to do to change? Be the boss. Okay, let's apply to the manager position. And then you are like, that's not enough. Let's go and be part of that group that discuss these things. So it's a little bit this proactiveness that probably you need to do. But again, it's very personal, and keep trying. Don't take the first no, because there will be a lot of no's in your career. And sometimes we need to, just you take the no, you learn, and you keep trying.
Yeah. Taking initiative and proactivity, it stands out a lot in what you've just said. So very, very important. And I think for any one of you, before you went out for your first mission with MSF, what did MSF do to prepare you as a logistician in terms of security, culture, and ethical challenges in the field? Yeah. Sharifa, would you like to take that up?
Sure. For me, before I went, and I was working as a locally hired staff. So before I went on my first mission with MSF, so I was quite familiar with MSF and how it operates and some of the countries it operates in, and generally the MSF culture. But one of the things that happens is you get to see presentations about MSF. It's welcome to MSF, so you can understand about the organization, its history, its principles, and what it stands for, and also the work that MSF does and the different types of scenarios that MSF intervenes in. You also get, in terms of preparation, a chance to read about the project. So you'll receive documents about the project, you'll understand the project history, you'll see the makeup of the team, and also the activities that are currently going on and what future activities might be. So that's also very good preparation for when you're going into a new project. You also receive security and cultural awareness information. So before you go on a project, you do get information about the context that you're going into and what it entails, a bit about the culture, in those projects, certain behaviors that you have to avoid, and also what some of the things to expect. And when you do arrive also in country, you receive the same kinds of briefings as well. And so you do get to quite a good understanding before you go in to your first mission. Having said that, sometimes you do get information and you have an idea, but it's rarely ever what you expect it to be. Not in a bad way. I say that in a positive way, because it's a great way to learn and be surprised as well. And so, because you sometimes go in with your own expectations about a country or a culture or something, and then it's really good when you get there and you learn. And so MSF does prepare you quite well in terms of giving you information about where you're going, and so you have the opportunity to ask questions as well.
Thank you, Sharifa. So a lot of briefing, a lot of preparedness, even in terms of culture, which is really, really good, because you're going to be in a new country, different people, different backgrounds, but we love diversity here. And Marsha, maybe you can take this one up. It's linked to one of the answers you gave, the responses you gave before. Someone is asking, if you haven't been lucky enough to have an opportunity to volunteer, and in job requirements, experience matters, how do you help in such situations? And if all you consider is experience, how will they ever learn?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part? If all you?
If we only consider experience, how will they learn?
Yeah, so if I get the question correctly, volunteering is something that we can take into account as working experience. Depends a bit what it is and how much in line it is with what we do. So it would need to be a bit on a case-by-case basis. Other than that, yeah, I mean, I don't have a unique solution for this question. Let me take it from another angle. The reason why we expect and require this experience prior to joining MSF is because we are working with the most vulnerable of populations, and it would be a bit irresponsible from us as an organization if we would send international mobile staff to the countries with very little experience, that, you know, in a sense that they would be trying out things for the very first time with the local teams that normally, not always, but normally have quite a lot of experience and expertise that we actually depend on in very many cases. So that's a bit of the rationale, especially when it comes to medical roles. Then, I mean, even more so, but also for the non-medical and technical positions, this requirement comes from there. That it really should not be sort of an experimental first job, but something that you have at least some comfort level when you land, and everything else is new. So there is a little bit of a basis that you start from and build on your experience. Volunteering works, similar organizations to ours, very much so. Working in other countries, cultures, languages, if that's something that is accessible to you, because I'm aware that it's not always very accessible to everyone, but that helps a lot, obviously, because it's exactly our type of work. Yeah, these things I would say, working experience wise would be beneficial. Language skills at the moment, especially French skills, are something that is scarce in our talent pool. For the time being, number one thing that I would recommend to everyone thinking about applying, if that's something that you can and are willing to take on, that would be amazing.
Thanks, Masha. And still on recruitment, is there an age limit before working as international mobile staff? Do we consider age?
No, I would say as a rule of thumb, no. Obviously, have in mind what I just said. So, you know, working experience may be even more important than education. But yeah, some working experiences is required. So yeah, that comes with some age, but no, there's no end limit and limit. So not the starting and not the end one. No, I'm not aware of any of that.
Yeah, definitely there is
Victoria?
no age limit. Yes, Sharifa.
So, Victoria, I just wanted to piggyback off of something that Masha said about
Yes.
volunteering and experience and limitations and whatnot. Personally, myself, it took me 10 years to get a job with MSF. I applied to MSF for a decade. And I did apply because I didn't start off in logistics. I started off in a career in law and with women's rights as well, and then also working in public relations. So I've changed careers quite a little bit. But in all that time, I knew I wanted to work for MSF. And some of the things I did was definitely volunteer, whether it was paid or unpaid, because I knew I wanted to learn and build my experience in the humanitarian or development sector. I spoke to a lot of people about what they do and how they were able to get into the positions that they had. I took time to check online and do trainings, free trainings online in logistics that I could find. Luckily I was fortunate enough to be able to access language classes, and so I learned French as well because I knew it would open more doors for me once I started working with MSF. And and I think the key is to say experience is also not just in the humanitarian sector. You can also develop skills and sets and experience outside of the humanitarian sector. You're not just to work as a logistics manager doesn't mean you have to do it in a humanitarian development organization. You can do it in the corporate sector and transfer it into the humanitarian field as well. And yes, it's difficult, it's hard, but you don't give up. If you really want to do something, keep pushing for it, keep fighting for it, and eventually you'll get there. It took me 10 years, but I did get there, and I'm happy that I did it, and I'm happy that I didn't give up.
Thanks so much. Sorry if I made it sound as if humanitarian experience is an absolute must. No, not at all. Not at all. So it can very much be this road of commercial sector and then a switch. And an important thing that I really want to stress, and thanks Sharifa for that. We have a lot of very many cases where people are continuously applying for protracted periods of time, and we absolutely don't look down upon it. So that's maybe something that, you know, is looked at differently within other organizations, but this sort of continued interest and dedication to joining is for us something that happens a lot and that we appreciate a lot. So no worries about applying multiple times and hoping that that at a certain point there's space for us to recruit you. So yes, indeed, continue applying and showing interest.
Yes. Thanks, Masha, for that. And we have another question here. How does MSF logistics look like in Kenya versus other countries? Is it different in any way when you compare Kenya to logistics in other countries in our operations? Patricia, would you like to take that up?
I mean, to be fair, logistics will always be slightly different depending on where you are, because one of the first things that you need to do in logistics is to adapt to your context. And Kenya doesn't have anything to do with Niger, no, as a context. However, as Sharifa was saying, we have those guidelines to avoid that every time that you go to a place, you need to build everything from scratch. So there is a kind of standard way of doing, and then you will need to adapt it to the place you are. And of course, Kenya has much more infrastructure than other places that we work on. So that will help. No, because you will be able, for example, to hire a company for doing a transport, and in other places you cannot because there is none. No, so you will need to do it yourself. So that will be the difference probably to a context. I'm just saying it very general because it depends on what operation you will have. That will be the second factor, where you are and what kind of operation. So it's not the same to go kind of outreach, or you go from where you are based to different places to do operation, or you are in a structure like a hospital. That will change the logistic. Again, in Kenya, you do have much more resources and infrastructure than in other countries that we operated. That will be, I will say, the difference. If not, it will be more or less the same. You will need to go through all those items. Or for example, now when we were talking with Clotilde about Watson, depends on where you are. Water is something that you can give it for granted because you will have an infrastructure that you can open a tap and you have water. In our place, there's no water. You will need to bring it. So that will be quite a game changer in terms of the work that logistics need to do. But again, you need to ensure water. So the objective is there. So I will say yes and no. It's the same in everywhere, but then you need to adapt it depending on the context and the kind of operation.
Thanks, Patricia, for that. Another question here is, what does a typical workday look like for a logistician in MSF? But both in the field and also in coordination. A field worker, but also in coordination. What does a day-to-day, what does your day-to-day look like? Anyone?
So it's hard to say what your day-to-day looks like, because like Patricia said, it depends where you work, where you're working and what countries that you're working in, and what activities are in place, and also what type of context you're working in. So whether you're working in an emergency context versus if you're working in a regular project where things might be a little bit more stable, or an emergency where everything has to go and everything is moving quite quickly. It looks different on a day-to-day basis. Normally, you have a team of people who you work with. You come into an office, you speak to your staff, you set the objectives for the day and what activities you have to do. Certainly, when you're managing logistics, some of the activities are or should be regular. For example, like maintenance of generators or air conditioners or vehicles. So there are some activities that should be regular or scheduled, so you know when to do them. and things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, anything it can change, certainly, because from one day you might be having to do construction. The next day, when the construction is finished, you might need to be working with the Watson to fix plumbing somewhere, or you might need to be transporting, evacuating patients or people. And so there's no standard day-to-day for logistics. And I think that's what makes it really exciting. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about in the field. I've only ever worked in the field. I really enjoy being in the field. I think Masha, Victoria, and Patricia can maybe talk more about it on a coordination side.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that coordination, just to make sure that we have coordination also at field. Again, it will depend a lot of that. I will say the higher you are in a hierarchy, the most you are in a meeting. So that probably will be the but I don't think there, as you were saying, Sharifa, for me, I will take that last sentence. I think that's the beauty of logistics, that it's very rare that one day looks like the other day. So I will say, when we were saying what kind of skills you need to have, is also what kind of personality you have. If you are someone that likes change and like learning things and like different things every day, logistic is your place, because it's very rare that you have 2 days that are exactly the same. At field level, even more, and I think it's more rewarding, because again, the higher you are in the hierarchy, the more is about meetings and talking with people, the less about doing. So yeah, it's very difficult to say what's your day.
Yeah. Thanks, Patricia. It changes from day to day, depending. I think that is it for the questions that we have, but we will still continue answering them as they come in the chat. So in case you still have something to ask, please drop it in the chat. But after hearing all this, what is one word of advice you would give to women who are thinking, can they make it in logistics, who still have some doubt? What is one word of advice you can give them? Maybe you can start with Sharifa and then Patricia.
So I think I would reiterate some of the things Masha said. Patricia, you have to be resilient. You have to be confident in your own abilities. And another piece of advice I would give is not to give up. I'd also like to add that, sometimes when I'm in the field or when I experience some of the challenges, that we've spoken about, sometimes I don't have the time or the energy even to kind of dignify some of the things I see with a response, and I have to say that's also okay. I like to tell people, just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I'm pouting. It means I'm actually plotting my next move. So I think always have that and keep that in mind. So I would say also a good sense of humor, just because sometimes things can get a little bit crazy. You can be really stressed. And so resilience, confidence in your abilities, and to just keep moving on, not to give up.
Thanks, Sharifa. Beautifully said. Patricia, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so for the ones that are still doubting if there's your place or not your place, if you are there, probably it's because it is your place. And Sharifa, as Sharifa was saying, it can take a time. For me, it was not 10 years, but almost, because the first time I approached, I made the wrong call. I called to the reception in the office. So the person taking the phone was not the right one. And because she told me, are you a doctor? And I was like, no. So you can be a donor. And imagine, things happen. Sometimes you are asked to the wrong person. So as you were saying, keep trying. there's a place because it's really so diverse what you do in logistics. So imagine the difference between someone that is doing a construction or rehabilitating a hospital. That's a completely different profession than the one that is doing the procurement or the one that is managing a workshop of cars. No, so there is a place there. You may be someone more technical that have this kind of background. You can be someone that is better at managing. Logistics teams are very big. So Clotilde, you were giving your example, no? First mission, already the first thing, she had 4 people to be managed. First thing that you do, and that will increase and increase, no? So I think if you are doubting, that's a very nice place to contribute. Of course, if you are a doctor, be a doctor. If I was a doctor, I will be, but I don't have any skills to be a doctor. So the next thing I thought it was the closest to help people in distress is being a log.
Yeah.
Of course,
Thanks,
human
Patricia.
resource is also very important, but
Profound. Yes, definitely it is. And also we are actually about to conclude, but how would you mentor young women that are thinking about entering this field?
so what do you mean? How we mentor ourselves, or what will be the
young women that want to enter this field? How would you mentor them? What else would you tell them to inspire them?
I think we said a lot that it will be applied for young and all those people and women. But I think what Sharifa was saying, you know, sometimes you don't get it now, but whatever you learn now, you will be able to apply it later. So if now you cannot be a log, someone in the chat was saying, what if I don't have experience? Get the experience. Work in another thing. Learn. It doesn't even need to be humanitarian, or can be a company. I was working in supply in a company, and I learned a lot about forecasting, for example. That was something that was very useful later. So you keep your dream, you put it in aside, you learn other things, you try other things, and then you go back there. No?
Yeah.
And find
definitely.
someone, talk to people. Now you connect to people and keep asking what is needed, and yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Patricia. Clotilde, you wanted to add something?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
please.
think being a woman is already a challenge, but several women have shown us that we can succeed in the very challenging fields.
Yeah.
It's very exciting, dynamic, and we naturally enjoy it. The journey will not always be easy. We will not always get what we want, but let us commit ourselves so that our work shows that this is our place and that we fully deserve it.
Thanks. See some excited hands there. Thanks, Clotilde. Yeah, we're actually about to finalize. Masha, any last words?
Yeah, nothing that I could say any better. I mean, it always is the best if it comes from firsthand experience, and in this case, that's our logistics colleagues. Yeah, my advice would be keep trying, keep applying. We'll always try. I see a couple of comments about it in the chat, and I find that very true about feedback. We will always try to provide feedback to candidates about what's missing, what could be improved over time, and then encourage people most of the time to reapply in half a year's time if today is not the right moment. We don't always have this time, but please feel free to reach out. Our email addresses are available online. We have LinkedIn profiles. Reach out, network, not only to us recruiters, but as Patricia mentioned, other team members. Try to find your avenues and get more information in, and then follow that advice and feedback. Yeah. Keep on trying, and find your spot in the world that fights for a better cause, I would always say, if that's possible, and gain your experience. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, Patricia, Clotilde, and Sharifa, for sharing your stories. It's been very insightful. I'm sure a lot of us are going to reflect and think. But we do hope that the next time we are hosting a live webinar, we will be seated across some of you listening in as MSF staff, as women in logistics. So we are really, really excited for that. But other than that, thanks to all of you. It has been really, really engaging.
Thank you to all for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to share our experiences as well.
It was very inspiring. Thank you, Sharifa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clotilde.